Welcome back to Corks, Cocktails, and Chemistry, the show where we pour something smooth, speak something real, and stir up the kind of chemistry that makes relationships make a little more sense. I'm your host, ChaFai. And first, let me say something. I know it took a little while for this next episode to drop. You know, life happens, schedules get busy, energy gets pulled in a lot of different directions, but you're not going to get rid of me that easily. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you coming back to the lounge. And tonight, we are stepping onto the court because it is that time of year. Brackets everywhere, upsets are happening all over the place. Fans are yelling at the TV. And by fans, I mean me. Welcome to the madness. And I'm not just talking about March Madness. I'm talking about the kind of madness that love can bring too. Because if we're honest, love can be a little maddening at times. It can be confusing, emotional, unexpected. One moment it feels incredible, and the next moment you are standing there wondering what the hell just happened. But here's the thing. If love isn't also beautiful somewhere in the middle of all of that madness, then maybe what you are experiencing isn't really love. Because real love, even when it's complicated, still carries moments of peace, laughter, connection, and growth. Now, whether you are brand new to basketball or even if you've been watching it for years, there's something really interesting about the way the game works. During every single game, the teams switch sides of the court after halftime. So the team that started on the left after halftime is now on the right, and vice versa. So both teams are able to experience both perspectives, both ends, both challenges, both advantages, and relationships work a lot like that. Sometimes you're on offense, sometimes you're on defense, sometimes you're pushing forward, and sometimes you're adjusting and just trying to protect what really matters. So this episode is called Love is a Team Sport. And whether you're watching college basketball during March Madness or the rhythm of the National Basketball Association, the game teaches something powerful about relationships, timing, communication, trust, pressure, and learning how to move together as a team. So tonight we're talking about basketball, but really we're talking about love. And before we step onto the court tonight, let's do a quick energy check. Think about your relationship for a moment. Are the two of you working together or working against each other? Are you navigating life together, or are you just two people reacting to whatever happens next? Because those are two very different experiences. Some relationships operate like organized basketball. There's communication, awareness, coordination. Each person understands their role in the relationship and the role of their teammate. When pressure shows up, they adjust. When mistakes happen, they recover. But other relationships look more like chaos. Two people reacting emotionally, no rhythm, no awareness of how their reactions or their actions affect their teammate. And when life throws something difficult into the relationship, everything falls apart. Because, love alone isn't enough. Chemistry isn't enough. Healthy relationships require awareness. Awareness of your partner. Awareness of the emotional energy in the room. Awareness of how your words, your tone, and your actions and reactions affect the person beside of you. Great basketball teams communicate constantly. They're calling plays. They're protecting each other from defenders and warning them about what's behind them or in front of them. They are adjusting in real time. And couples who thrive do the same. They notice when energy shifts. They notice when stress shows up. They notice when communication starts breaking down. And instead of ignoring those signals, they adjust. So the question tonight is simple. Are you working together in your relationship, or are you just reacting to whatever happens next? So before we go any further, you know how we do it here. We're going to pour something first. Pour something for yourself, because good conversations deserve a good drink beside of them. Let's step into the flavor lounge for Glass and Ash. Tonight's drink is a personal pour from ChaFai, basically meaning it's something I made up. It's light, it's refreshing, it's definitely something you could sip through an entire basketball game. I'm calling tonight's drink the Fast Break Spritz. All I did was grab a glass, fill it with ice. I added about 2 ounces of vodka, an ounce of fresh lime juice, about a half ounce of elderflower liqueur, and I gave it a quick stir. And then I topped it off with Prosecco. I added a mint leaf, just one, because I'm not real big on mint. And there it is, the Fast Break Spritz. Now, if you have poured something for yourself, let's take a sip. Okay, let me tell you why this drink fits for tonight. Every ingredient in this drink represents something about relationships. The vodka is the foundation, clean, neutral. It supports everything else without being overpowering. In relationships, that's trust. Trust is the quiet structure that everything else stands on. You don't always notice it until it's missing. Next is the lime juice. That's the spark, the brightness. In relationships, that's honesty. Honesty isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it's a little sharp, but without honesty, relationships become flat. And then there's the elderflower liqueur. That's the smoothness, the balance. In relationships, you can say that's the kindness, because honesty without kindness can become cruelty. Kindness softens difficult conversations. And then let's talk about the Prosecco. That's the energy, the excitement, the laughter, the fun couples bring into each other's lives. Because relationships without joy eventually start feeling like work. And as a wonderful friend of mine says, work is ghetto. And finally, let's talk about the mint. Now, the mint isn't the biggest ingredient, but the moment you smell it, the whole drink changes. The mint is the small acts of care in relationships, the thoughtful text, the check-ins, the little moments that say, I see you. So as I sip this tonight, I'm going to remember the ingredients, the trust, honesty, kindness, energy, and attention. Those ingredients don't just make a good cocktail, they also make a good relationship. So I'm going to take another sip. That tastes like great chemistry. And of course, I am pairing this drink with a medium-bodied cigar. If you are smoking with me tonight, let's go ahead and light those cigars. Now, you know, basketball is a fast game. Momentum can change in seconds. One pass, one steal, one decision, and suddenly the entire energy shifts. Relationships work that way as well. Sometimes the smallest moment changes everything. A moment of patience, a moment of listening, a moment of honesty. Those fast break moments often determine whether relationships strengthen or whether they slowly start to break down. Most people think relationships are about finding the right person, but over time you realize that relationships are about learning how to move together. Love matters, chemistry matters, but partnership, that is something that people have to learn. So tonight we're going to break down basketball into love lessons. Not highlight plays, not statistics, but the kind of lessons that show up in real relationships, because once you start looking closely, the court and the heart actually do have a lot in common. Let's start with this one first. In basketball, the point guard is often called the floor general, not because they score the most points, but because they see the whole court. They notice when a teammate is frustrated. They notice when the defense is closing in. They notice when the offense is getting sloppy, and they adjust the rhythm of the game. Sometimes they slow the play down. Sometimes they speed it up. But the entire team depends on their awareness. Now think about relationships. Every relationship needs someone who notices what is actually happening emotionally. Someone who notices when tension is building, when communication is getting sharp, when stress from the outside starts creeping into the relationship. Because the truth is, most arguments don't explode out of nowhere. They build slowly. One comment, one misunderstanding, one stressful day that just wasn't talked about. And suddenly the whole conversation turns into a full-blown argument. The point guard in a relationship is the person who notices those shifts early. They may say something like, "Hey, you seem a little stressed today. Do you want to talk about it?" Or, "Let's slow this conversation down before we say something we don't mean." And here's the important part. Being the point guard doesn't mean controlling the relationship. It means protecting the rhythm of the relationship. Healthy couples take turns being the point guard. Some days one person leads emotionally, other days the other person does. But when no one is paying attention to the emotional flow, the relationship starts playing chaotic basketball. And chaotic basketball rarely wins games. Lesson 2. Defense wins championships. Now listen, basketball fans love offense. 3-point shots, highlight dunks, game-winning moments, but every championship coach will tell you the same thing. Defense wins championships. Defense requires discipline, attention, commitment, because defense is about protecting something, and relationships need defense as well. But relationship defense doesn't look like blocking shots. It looks like protecting the relationship from things that slowly damage it. For example, defense might mean protecting your partner when they're not in the room. If someone starts criticizing them, you shut it down. Defense may mean protecting your relationship from outside interference, friends who constantly bring negativity, social media comparisons, outside opinions about how your relationship should look. Defense also means protecting emotional safety, not embarrassing your partner in public, not weaponizing their vulnerabilities during arguments, not turning private moments into public entertainment. Because when emotional safety disappears, love starts playing defense against itself. Strong couples defend the relationship even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, because protecting the relationship always matters more than winning a tiny argument. Now let's take a drink. And let's draw on that cigar. Okay, lesson 3, March Madness versus long-term love. Every year during March Madness, something incredible happens. Underdogs beat top-ranked teams. Favorites collapse. Games swing wildly in the final minutes. The energy is intense, emotional, unpredictable. It's exciting, but it's also chaotic. Now compare that to the rhythm of the NBA. An NBA season is long, 82 games. There's travel, fatigue, adjustments. Championship teams aren't just talented, they're disciplined. They build systems, they communicate. They make adjustments when things stop working. Relationships often start like March Madness. High emotion, high attraction, everything feels exciting and intense. You're texting constantly, staying up late, talking, feeling that rush of chemistry. But long-term love, that's the NBA season. Consistency, patience, learning each other's habits, learning how to navigate stress together. The couples who last aren't the ones with the most dramatic love stories. They are the ones who build emotional systems that work over time. Lesson 4, you can't win alone. One of the biggest myths in basketball is the idea of the hero, the player who scores the winning shot, the superstar who dominates the game. But if you look closely at championship teams, you will see something different. For every single star player, there are teammates setting screens, grabbing rebounds, making defensive stops, doing the invisible work. Relationships fall apart when one person is trying to do everything. One partner managing all the communication, all of the emotional repair, all of the planning, all of the effort, and over time, that becomes exhausting. Because relationships are not meant to be carried by one person. Real partnership means sharing the emotional responsibility. Some days one person is stronger, other days the other person is. But the work is shared, just like a great basketball team. Lesson 5, timeouts save relationships. In basketball, coaches call timeouts when momentum starts slipping. Players are frustrated, communication is breaking down, mistakes are piling up. The timeout allows everyone to pause, to breathe, to regroup. Relationships need that same kind of pause. But many couples misunderstand what a healthy timeout looks like. A healthy timeout isn't about the silent treatment. It isn't about punishment. It's intentional space. It sounds like this. Let's pause this conversation before it turns into something worse. Let's take a break and talk about this later tonight. Sometimes the most mature move in a relationship is recognizing when emotions are too high for a productive conversation, because continuing the argument often causes more damage than the original issue. Timeouts allow people to return with a clear mind and a softer heart. Lesson 6. Every team has a bench. Even the best players in the world don't play every minute. They need rest, support, rotation. Basketball teams rely on their bench for energy and relief. Relationships need benches too. Friends, family, mentors, community. Not every single emotional need should come from one person. You do need a village. Just make sure that that village is pouring into you. Couples who isolate themselves often place enormous pressure on each other. Every problem, every stress, every task. And that can weigh down a relationship. Just think about that. Now, let's take a sip. Lesson 7. Know when to take the shot. In the final seconds of a basketball game, the entire arena holds its breath. The clock is running down, the defense is tight, and someone has to decide. Pass the ball or take the shot. Relationships have those moments too. Moments when honesty matters. Moments when courage matters. Moments when someone needs to say, I care about you. I'm sorry. This isn't working, or I want to build a future together. Some people hesitate in those moments. They wait for perfect timing, but life, like basketball, it keeps moving. You have to know when to take the shot. And you also have to know when it's time to just pass the ball. Let's take another drink on that one. All right, lesson 8. Rebounds are everything. Even the best players miss shots. Missed shots are part of the game. That's why rebounds exist. Rebounds are about recovery. Relationships can miss as well. Arguments happen, misunderstandings happen, feelings get hurt, but what matters most isn't the mistake. It's what happens after. Do you walk away, or do you come back to repair? Rebounds are where emotional maturity lives. Lesson 9. Screens create space. In basketball, screens create opportunity. One teammate steps in and absorbs pressure so another teammate can move forward. In relationships, screens look like support. Encouraging your partner's dreams, standing beside them when life gets difficult, helping them move forward when they feel stuck. Sometimes love means stepping into pressure so that your partner has space to grow. And lesson 10, let's talk about half-time adjustments. No team wins by running the same play or the same strategy forever. At halftime, coaches adjust. They study what's working, what isn't working. Relationships require the same reflection. People grow. Circumstances change. Stress comes and goes. Healthy couples check in with each other. They ask questions like, are we still supporting each other the way we need to? Is something missing right now? Long-term love survives because couples adjust their strategy together. Now, I want you to think about that. Are you adjusting your strategy together? Now let's pause the game for a second, because if we're talking basketball, we have to talk about the shot clock. You only have so much time to make a decision. Pass, drive, shoot. What do you do? Well, relationships have shot clocks too. Important conversations cannot be avoided forever. Eventually, the clock will run down. And with that being said, I'm going to give you a second drink for tonight. Look at me mixing it up. So what I did, I grabbed a shaker, I added ice. I poured in 2 ounces of tequila, about 1 ounce of fresh lime juice, about a half ounce of agave syrup, and a splash of orange liqueur. And then I shook it up. Then I strained it over fresh ice, and I have it right here. I'm calling it the Shot Clock Margarita. I knew that I was going to need a second drink in this relationship, and sometimes in relationships you have to take the shot. So in this relationship, in this conversation that we're having right now, I'm going to go ahead and pour my second drink. And before we wrap up tonight, here's the playbook. Communicate early. Protect the team. Recover as quickly as you can. Share the work. Play the long game. Because championships in basketball and love are never won in one moment. They are built over time. So as we come to the end of this relationship, again, I want to say welcome back to the lounge. Thank you for joining me tonight. But raise your glass with me. And let's toast to the couples learning the game, the ones who pass the ball and protect the lane, the ones who recover after missed shots, and keep adjusting when life changes the play. Because love, just like basketball, is better when played as a team. To rhythm, to partnership, and to playing the long game. This has been Corks, Cocktails, and Chemistry. Until next time, keep your glass full, your mind open, and your chemistry evolving. The next round's on me. Don't be late.